warehouse is open. Tales from the Warehouse, Volume 29, and NHL Playoffs Roundtable, MeiGray style. Joined today by Dave Meisel, Special Projects Director and Caps Lead at MeiGray. Geoff Spaid,
And Blue
NHL
Jackets
Program,
lead.
and Blue Jackets lead. Geoff Spaid, NHL Program Director. Gray Richards, Preds lead. You can reach them all through MeiGray.com. Of course, boys, the postseason is upon us, and it's good to have all three of you back. Now that the matchups have been set, and you're entering your bracket contests and creating your brackets. It's April madness, if you will. Gray, we'll start with you. What Stanley Cup matchup are you rooting for? And which Stanley Cup matchup do you think will happen? So why don't we do it this way? You see the West, you see the East. Give me your final two, and then we can talk about some individual playoffs. Give me two from each side and which one you think and which one you're rooting for. And I think I know the answer already, by the way.
I think most people know who I'm rooting for. So I'll put my bias aside. And unfortunately, I think Victory Green is going to reign supreme in this Stanley Cup playoff. As much as that hurts me, I think Dallas is the team to beat coming out of the West. So they're my team out of the West. The East is a little tougher. I guess I'll piggyback on our boy Patrick, and I'm going to say the Panthers out of the East over the Blue Shirt Rangers, over the Bruins. All the tough teams. I think the Panthers come out and the West takes it home. Dallas over the Panthers in 6.
Dallas over the Panthers in 6. Do you have another sort of a two spot, if you will, that might be there with Dallas, perhaps giving them a decent fight in the West, but eventually falling off?
Obviously, the Predators are going to take them to 7 and lose in like double overtime. But I hope my team makes a deep run. I think they have a good balance of young guys, but playoff experience with older guys like Ryan O'Reilly, Jason Zucker. I think there are some tough teams out of the West. There's some intriguing. I mean, can Vancouver kind of live up to what they've done in the regular season? Can McDavid and Draisaitl get over their kind of second round hump that they've been going up against here in these last few years? There's a lot of interesting prospects in this year's playoffs. So definitely excited for what's to come in the next 2 months.
Mr. Meisel, to you, give me two from the West, two from the East that you think, and then one that you're rooting for as far as a Stanley Cup Finals matchup.
Two from the East that I think. I just picked my bracket for our little MeiGray challenge today, so I guess it might not match because I definitely like the Bruins this year because they don't have the President's Trophy hanging over their head. They were not just as good, but they were still really strong this year. I think they can beat the Leafs handily. The Rangers, conversely, I worry about that President's Trophy jinx. It just seems to get everybody pretty much. And it's also the fact that there's just 4 really strong teams in the East that I think that can win the Cup in the Rangers, Hurricanes, Panthers, and Bruins. So my second team in the East, I guess I'm going with the Hurricanes. Like I think they'll come out of it. And in the West, I am gonna both emotionally and rationally predict that the Predators beat the Canucks. But as far as who I have coming out of it, it's just so hard to bet against the Avs and who they'll beat. I have Avs Oilers in the conference finals. I think that checks out. But I just don't see Edmonton getting past without a goalie. So I have Bruins Avs in the finals. And then as far as who I want, I'm seeing if the Rangers can win their way back to my heart. Obviously, I'd like the Capitals to beat them for work. And I'd like to see the Predators make a run. I'm just wondering if I can, I was a Ranger fan in the past and, I didn't like that they broke up the team from the early 2010s and mid 2010s. It was trading Carl Hagelin that kind of did it for me. So I'm seeing if I can maybe, if it stirs anything in me, if they make a run this year.
Carl Hagelin, a man who wore the Washington Capitals crest on his uniform. And with that, we turn to Geoff Spaid, NHL Program Director over at MeiGray, a guy with a Caps rooting interest, as well as some other MeiGray teams rooting interest. Mr. Spaid, two from the West, two from the East. Who you rooting for, and who do you think may be there at the end?
Look, I mean, the ideal matchup is Predators Capitals in the Stanley Cup final. Now, is that going to happen? Who's to say? But for my Western Conference final, I think I agree with Gray. Victory Green versus Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers. And I think that Oilers team, though Skinner's not the best goaltender, I really just think that early part of the year where they really struggled taught them how to come together as a team. And they really rallied together to the end of this year to get back up into that 2 seed in the Pacific. So I think the Edmonton Oilers are going to go all the way to the Cup final. And I think in the East, I think it's going to be the Florida Panthers pushing all the way to the conference final. And I think they're going to face up against my dark horse, the Washington Capitals. I think the Caps have nothing to lose, and they're only going to try their hardest. And, you know, Dave said it, President's Trophy curse. And it might be a little homerism. I have a little bias. As Gray said, I think the Caps will take them to double overtime in Game 7 before losing in a heartbreaking fashion. But I think it's going to be Panthers, Oilers, and I have the Panthers in 6.
Geoff, we'll keep it with you. And by the way, send your cards, letters, and emails to gspaid@meigray.com. Of course, supportive, preferably. Geoff, we'll keep it with you. Which player who does not have a cup or cup ring would you want to see win one the most? Like a McDavid, like a Matthews. Is there somebody else out there that you're like, he needs this? Not necessarily for career validation, because that's sort of a low-hanging fruit of sports radio and of bar arguments. Oh, you need a title to win. Please, the Hall of Fames, various Hall of Fames are filled with amazing players who didn't win a title, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. For others, not so much. But there are people who, there are skaters who may one day get to carry it around or not. Is there somebody out there that you're like, this guy, it's time?
I will say I am not the biggest fan of his team, and I might be stealing this one from Gray. I don't know. But I'd really like to see Matt Duchene win the Stanley Cup. I think Matt Duchene's a fun player. I think he's got a good personality. He was always fun to watch in Nashville. So I hope he finds his way.
David, over to you for this one. I'm glad that Geoff ordered off the menu. You ordering off the menu as well?
Definitely. I mean, McDavid, it's an easy answer. Like, not a cheap answer, but he's the guy I want to see win a cup for sure. I'm just thinking about on our teams, like, I don't agree on Duchene. Like, there's nothing that fun to me about him. But I'm just thinking of where else.
Maybe a former Norris winner, something like that.
I mean, I'll stick with McDavid. Like it's the easy one, and I think it's good for the game.
Done and done. Mr. Richards, I think I know where you're going with this. For those of you watching at home, what do you got, Gray? Who needs one?
Swiss defenseman that I would love to see win a Stanley Cup and lift that on 501 Broadway Street. But like Geoff said, I think Matt Duchene would be a fun one. This is a really weird. I've always really liked Tyler Seguin. I think I'm kind of back pocket rooting for the Stars, even though that goes against everything I believe in as a Predators fan. There's multiple guys on that team I like. Other than that, besides wanting to see Jeff Skinner in a playoff game, I don't really have anybody that I'm hoping will do anything, make some noise in the playoffs. So I don't really have a great answer besides the boys in gold on this one.
All right, let's turn it around and we'll give it away. We'll get it away from the individuals and back to the teams. The opening round is chock full of fun stuff this year, and you could say that pretty much about every year. But I'm excited for several of these opening round matchups, including, I'm so tired of it's original 6, the Bruins and the Maple Leafs. Yes, aside from the crests and the uniforms and the team history, I know those are 3 things, Scott, pretty easy to list. I don't know if Austin Matthews woke up this morning and said, I'm thinking that this is an original 6 matchup, or Marchand's thinking the same. Please make that stuff stop. It's not really a narrative, but it's a hell of a matchup. And I'm looking forward to that one. And I'm looking forward to Florida and Tampa Bay. And I'm certainly looking forward to Winnipeg and Colorado, because I think that Colorado has, and you guys can chuckle here, I think they've underachieved at times. And maybe it's because they have again, sports radio argument, but it's certainly fun for this one. Tales from the Warehouse, Volume 29, NHL Playoffs Roundtable. They may be quite guilty of rubbing their, burning their goaltender into the ground, and like it's way too much on Georgiev, and maybe they expected a little better from him or a little better from team defense, and injuries get in the way. Anyway, I think Winnipeg could walk away from that, and Hellebuyck's had a whale of a season. Anyway, Gray, start with you on this one. Give me some opening round series that you are excited by, sir.
Like you said, the Florida Tampa Bay, that's probably the most exciting for me. Two teams being that close in proximity, I think that just creates a natural rivalry. With two, obviously Florida's exciting, leading the league in hits. They have the best goal differential in the league. But then you have an experienced team like Tampa Bay with Stamkos, Kucherov leading the league in points. To me, that has all of the potential to be the best round one matchup. Another one, I think, a rematch of LA and Edmonton. That looks like it could be another really good 7-game matchup. So I'm excited for all the round one matchups, and I'm with you on the original 6 bias. I think that's baloney. I don't think Brad Marchand woke up and was like, man, this is an original 6 matchup. We're so lucky. So that Florida Tampa Bay and then Edmonton LA are my 2 to watch.
Dave, opening round excitement for you? Just pick one, sir.
Yeah, I love Boston, Toronto. I think it's going to be nasty, not just between the team, not just between the players, but the fans, which is like, for me, these like part of the entertainment for sports in the like modern day is not only watching what's going on the ice, but watching what people have to say about it and the memes and all the kind of extra cultural stuff that goes on. So I'm excited to see how that goes. I want it to be a long series for sure. Like I would be pretty disappointed if that series only goes 4 or 5 games in either direction.
Mr. Spaid, over to you. Is it the brother-on-brother crime that is Ryan and Charlie? Is it the Lavi storyline, former coach in New York goes against the Washington Capitals? There's a lot of stuff there for New York and Washington.
There is a lot, and you picked it right up. That's the one I'm most looking forward to. Now, I think probably the hardest hitting series is going to be that Florida Tampa Bay. I think if you like old school hard hitting hockey, that's the one to watch. That Florida team's so fast, but New York, Washington, for me, it goes back to one game, one moment, May 3rd, 2021. Feels like a lifetime ago, but that's the day Tom Wilson punches Pavel Buchnevich on the ground and then flips Artemi Panarin and slams him on the ground. And that right there took the bad blood between the Caps and the Rangers from like here to way up here. Because right after that, what happens? The Rangers get themselves fined for calling out George Parros' job, saying they should have suspended Wilson. There's 6 fights. And ever since that moment, the Rangers went out, got Ryan Reeves. Now they have Matt Rempe. You have the Laviolette storyline. Now on Washington with Nick Jensen and Rasmus Sandin hurt, not only do you have Tom Wilson, but you also have Hershey Bears captain and Calder Cup champion Dylan McIlrath on the blue line, who had a really good game in Philly. And you could see he's a hard-hitting defenseman. I think that's going to be a brutal series. I think it's going to be a real fun series to watch. And that's the one I'm looking forward to the most because I think it's just going to be a battle of attrition. And yeah, I mean, New York Rangers have high-flying offense, but the Washington Capitals have a really solid defensive play in the last few months. So I think it's going to be a battle of inches, and I think it could be a short series or it could be a very long and grueling one. And I think it's a real coin toss, but it's a real fun one that's going to be on the top of my radar.
Throwing this out there real quick. Every series has been mentioned except for Carolina and the Islanders. And Carolina did a lot of work to get better, as if they weren't already a very good team, but they got hella better right around the trade deadline, adding names and skill and talent and experience and cup experience and playoff experience at any rate. And the Islanders played really, really well down the stretch and got great goaltending. I'm not saying that this could be a lengthy series, but nobody mentioned that. Any reason why, Gray?
I mean, to me, I kind of think the Islanders are a fluke. I mean, you get the production you get out of Varley. how repeatable is that kind of production out of a 36-year-old goalie?
Sure.
I don't know. I'm not into that hype. And I think to me, I think Carolina wins that like 4-1, 4-0. And Patrick's probably gonna like write this down on some list and hold it over my head. I just
He
don't
did
buy
that
into-
last year.
I don't buy into the Islanders, even though they shut out the Preds 2 weeks ago. But
Yeah, I kind of piggyback off that. I think it's on paper. It's playoff hockey. Anything can happen. But I think on paper, really, Carolina should run away with it with their additions of Jake Gensel at the deadline. You know, they have a solid defensive core. You got Brett Burns back there as a veteran presence. You've got a solid players like Sebastian Aho. They added almost, I would call him rejuvenated Evgeny Kuznetsov. You've got Seth Jarvis. You've got the only question mark Carolina has is, can their goaltending stand up? And when you face a team like the Islanders, I think realistically, I think they can outscore the Islanders every game. It doesn't matter if it's a 6-5 or 7-6 game. I think they can outscore the Islanders every single night. So that's why I didn't mention it. We're not going to mention my dislike for Carolina Hurricanes anyway, but
I totally understand. All right, boys, let's change the focus to the sweater for a second, and then we'll get back and talk a little bit more about the jerseys in a bit. Tales from the Warehouse, Volume 29. Dave Meisel, Geoff Spaid, Gray Richards, all of the MeiGray family. The warehouse remains open. Dave, we'll start with you for this one. As a hockey fan, do you have a favorite playoff moment? And did you ever look or dream of obtaining a sweater? And I know I'm asking the right guy for this. From that specific moment, be it, of the current era or something vintagey that really rung a bell and said, oh my goodness, I've never thought of owning this, but now I do.
Favorite playoff moment. There was one guy, I actually don't remember what it is. I just remember how it felt to be in it. I think it was one of the years in like the early 2010s when the Rangers beat the Capitals. I think it was a game 6 or 7. And
Was
I
this
just
the
remember
6-1 or 6-0, something like that?
I don't think so, because it was a lot tenser than that. But there
Okay.
was it was the first time I experienced the monster of Madison Square Garden in person. And, that just kind of like heartbeat kind of shaking, pulsing, like energy that goes on there when it gets to a certain point. I know Ovechkin was on the Capitals at that time. I just don't remember exactly what year it was. I probably would be able to look it up, 2010 or 2011 or something like that. As far as getting a sweater, like I don't think I looked at it at that time. I mean, but I knew past moments. Like I always have loved the story of Martin Brodeur's Game 7 jersey from, what was it, 03, when he didn't want to switch jerseys, which meant he had to wear our jersey and not his in Game 7.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad had to be there in the locker room all night, keeping an eye on him, the jersey getting covered in champagne, etc. I mean, being close to that was like enough for me. I didn't need to own that jersey or any other. And as we know, like, these guys are more collectors than me. So yeah, there definitely been moments I really enjoyed from multiple teams.
Geoff, I know that I am lucky enough to own one from a certain finals run from a desired player who was key during the playoff run, and that makes my family and my kids really, really happy. And that would be a Capital Stanley Cup Finals piece, and it's Jacob Vrana, and you've seen it in person. And it's lovely, and I got it through MeiGray.
Beautiful
I'm
jersey.
so happy. It's got a repair, and of course the desirable coveted finals patch, but shows wear, and it's from games 3 and 4, so it's back here in DC. At any rate, that's that's not necessarily a favorite playoff moment, but a playoff run, and I'm lucky enough to have that in my collection. For you, sir, a playoff moment and sort of the desirability factor, and do you own one?
Yeah, I mean, the 2018 Cup run is always something. You could go all the way back to Columbus series, the Pittsburgh series, the Evgeny Kuznetsov overtime winner in Game 6 versus Pittsburgh. I know where I'm going to jump the gun, and I'll save it, actually, but like that conference finals against Tampa, I do have a jersey from that series, which is super awesome to own. And then then also Stanley Cup Finals is like really where I'd love to get one. I don't own one personally, but they're few and far between, and they're grails for sure. And people don't move them, but one day I hope to find one. But one of my favorite outside the 2018 Cup run, I'll give you a favorite playoff moment, was in 2019. There's two moments from that round one series against Carolina where the Caps lose in that heartbreaking double overtime. The first one was I really like the Brooks Orpik game 2 overtime winner. I went to a small college. I was in college at the time, and I went to a small college in Pennsylvania, north of Pittsburgh, called Grove City College. And one of my favorite things to do was break out my Tom Wilson jersey and wear it around campus and around town. And on that specific date, I forget the game date, but I went down to Pittsburgh with some friends to do some stuff, and I wore my Tom Wilson jersey all day, and I got heckled all day for it. And then I got to watch the game. I caught the end of the game because we were out and about doing stuff, but I got to see the Brooks Orpik overtime winner. And like for me, I got into hockey and I got into Capitals through my roommate, and Brooks Orpik was easily one of my favorite players. So like that's one of my favorite playoff moments right there. And I would love to own any Brooks Orpik jersey. I do need to add one to my collection, but specifically that one because it was just a culmination of a really good day into a 4-3 overtime victory. I mean, it was just it's one of my favorite playoff memories.
Gray Richards, over to you, sir. Playoff moment, playoff sweater owned, desired to own? Question mark.
For me as a Preds guy, a lot of it goes back to that 2017 Stanley Cup run. That was my first year having season tickets and going to as many games as possible. But I think probably Game 4 of that Chicago series. I mean, Chicago was the #1 playoff seed. We were the dead last playoff seed, and chanting sweep inside of Bridgestone Arena in the final minutes of that Game 4 as the Preds were about to sweep the Blackhawks. That still gives me goosebumps. That was a really fun, so glad I was in that building kind of moment. I have a home and away from that playoff set. The Preds, for some reason, they wore their gold and white set 2 from sometime in January through the third round of the playoffs. I have Ryan Ellis in both jerseys, and those are probably, of all the jerseys I have, those are the most coveted things I have. Will be buried with me one day just because of all of the phenomenal playoff memories and just memories from that whole set from January all the way through May.
MeiGray with a pair of program teams in the postseason, the Capitals and the Preds. Gray, will keep it with you. What are the Predators wearing as they head into this opening round series against the Vancouver Canucks? Is it set 3? Is it a new set? Tell me about the protocol for the team.
Yep. So they will be wearing white set 3 for games 1 and 2 when they're up in Vancouver. And then when they come back to Nashville, they'll be in gold set 3. Both of those sets started in March, so they'll have a little bit of wear going into the playoffs, and they will be carried through all 3 rounds of the Western Conference playoffs. They will switch into a new set if they were to make the Stanley Cup final, but these gold and white set 3s will be worn through all 3 rounds of the playoffs if they make it.
And as far as availability goes, check MeiGray.com. Email Gray, of course, Richards at MeiGray.com. David, over to you for the Capitals. What are they wearing as they start their set? Started it the other day against the New York Rangers.
Yeah, so it's similar to Nashville with a slightly different start dates. Washington started set 3 within the last few weeks in both colors. Obviously, you have shirt off their back night and player set dates to work around, but they'll have been in their jerseys for, I believe, somewhere between 4 and 6 games heading into the playoffs. So minimum, you're getting 6 to 8. That's assuming they play at least 2 games in each color. Hopefully more. It certainly beats recent years. Well, at least my first year, the COVID year, is what I remember when everybody started their set 3s during the playoffs. Not great for anyone because, you know, a team goes out quick and it's not a set that's going to sell very well. And then people aren't also as happy with the jerseys they get when they're 2 or 3 gamers in a series the team lost. So, you know, good that the Capitals, I don't want to say put a run together, but snuck their way into the playoffs, you know, did what they had to do to push off the Penguins and the Red Wings. And even like I was looking at the standings, the Devils, like, they were out, but they kind of hung around. They won some games at the end and only finished a couple points out. So yeah, we'll see some shirts with some wear. Although maybe Geoff can speak to Ovi. I'm guessing he'll be in new shirts for those
Yeah.
series, but
Yeah, I mean, other than that, Ovi is always just a question mark. It depends. He swaps into a lot of jerseys, so he'll be the only guy where I'd say he'll have a new jersey for different games, but the rest of the teams for both Nashville and Washington will have the same jersey, set 3 jersey carried into the playoffs. So kind of just piggybacking off of what Dave and Gray said is you want to make sure you go to MeiGray.com to get those. And they're up right now. They're even updated to say red set 3/playoffs or gold set 3/playoffs or whatever set you're looking at. And I recommend as a collector and also working here at MeiGray, don't wait because things sell, especially when great playoff moments happen. You can wait and see who scores the Game 7 winner or who's the Game 7 hero. But the longer you wait, the less it's available. If your team ends up going on that run, ends up going to the Cup, the Predators and or the Capitals, the pool of jerseys gets smaller. You can head over there right now, and I know Dave can probably attest to this. I think he's gotten a lot of requests for Charlie Lindgren over the past few days, and both his set 3s are gone. And similar story over in Nashville with Gray. I think Philip Forsberg and Roman Josi are both gone. So the sooner you get in the door and the sooner you're excited to watch these playoff series, it's a different experience watching a jersey in the playoffs than it is in the regular season for sure. So I highly recommend if you're looking to get one, debating to get one, feeling like you want to get one, look, see what's available, and I recommend you take the jump and get one.
Geoff, I'm glad you brought up that scenario and that specific player because I was one of the guys looking during the last 5 games of the regular season, and I don't know exactly when it disappeared from the site, but I was looking for the Charlie Lindgren from the last couple of games, and it was gone. So shame on me for delaying because these things do get snapped up. And as you mentioned, as all 3 of you have mentioned, the extended wear. If you wear set 3 into the playoffs, that goalie jersey is going to show a great amount of wear if you are lucky enough to get the starting netminder. It's a really, really cool piece, and obviously higher stakes, seemingly increased camera visibility for you to watch as your piece is utilized throughout the playoffs. And there you are, like Gray said, keep going, keep winning, keep going. And then if you guys get to the finals, okay, you're going to do something different. That's fine. But my goodness, the opportunity, it's a fun position to be in, having snagged a set 3/playoffs and having your team in a good position to make a deep run. Very, very cool. Geoff, I'll keep it with you for a second. And Dave brought this up. The Devils didn't seem like they were out of it. It came down to the last night / last 2 nights. And just talking about the East for a second, Detroit, alive and well. The Flyers, alive and well. Pittsburgh, alive and hoping to have played against the Islanders on that Wednesday night with New York having nothing to play for, but the Penguins were ready to roll and do some damage had the Caps not taken care of their business. Do you see someday, or are you a fan now of the NHL saying, this was a tremendous final week, we should do a play-in?
Yeah, I've heard that idea tossed around, especially when you hear, at this point, Utah is now a thing and Arizona's moving, but part of that deal is that Arizona can get a team back. And then you hear rumblings of Houston and Atlanta, and there's always Quebec. So, I mean, I think at where they're at right now, 32, even up to 34 teams, I think 16 is the perfect number. Because I'll look at the NBA where they have the play-in. One of my least favorite things about the NBA, and I played basketball growing up. I loved basketball growing up. One of my biggest problems with basketball nowadays is load management. The superstars taking all these nights off, because if you have 32 teams and 20 of them make the playoffs, you don't need to play that hard to get at least in the play-in games. And one of the things that really bothers me, and one of the things I love about hockey and what really got me into it, is you can't really take games off. You look at all those teams you listed off, the Flyers, the Penguins, the Detroit Red Wings. They had a few games they dropped towards the end of the year. And the Capitals and Islanders did too. But it's just who found their stride first. And it was a race. And when you have a play-in game, it doesn't feel like a race anymore, because once you get up in that middle of the pack, it's like, well, playoff seeding really doesn't matter for us anymore, because 10 teams in the East are going to make it. 10 teams in the West are going to make it. We can start to do load management, which I think overall detracts from the value in the play and the guys out there on the ice trying. So I think where the game's at right now with the number of teams in the league, I think no play-in round. I'm a hard no. Call me old school, but that's what I believe.
Gray, anything to add or subtract from that, sir?
Just the baseball aspect of me, the one game wild card is exciting every year. And so, I mean, the idea of an 8 and a 9 having to play one game, having an extra night of that Phillies Caps or that Flyers Caps that we had this week, that was exciting hockey. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to a winner take all. You get to go play the President's Trophy New York Rangers, but at the same time, like Geoff said, with load management and it makes random games on a Tuesday night in the regular season feel more important, knowing that it all ends on a certain date and there's not a possibility of a play-in for teams that were on the cusp.
Gents, we'll wrap with a sweater question. You were all nice enough to share what's in the collection, what may be desired to be in the collection and whatnot. And it's sort of an age-old query in that people wondering about playoffs jerseys and the personal value. And I think I'll give you my 2 cents, which you can take and throw in the toll booth. I think it's a personal story. If you have an attachment to a player who was part of a deep playoff run or part of a most wonderful postseason experience that you were there with family, or this person scored 2 goals in the game that I was able to, obtain that set 3/playoffs, that sweater is worth a ton to me because of ... Other folks may say, playoffs may have been shorter worn. I'm not sure. But I think I think it can go both ways. I kind of lean towards you have a story with it and your team doing well with it and in that. And so it may not be so easily discounted. Oh, it's playoffs. No, it's got a great story. Gray, I'll start with you.
I think just leaning on my team specifically, the Preds have normally carried a regular season set into the playoffs. So, I mean, to me, that's a double cool, in my opinion. Like, if for me, having had season tickets for a while, like I saw games in March and April, and then if I saw it in the playoffs too, I mean, to me, like that's just the perfect storm. And I have my fair share of playoff jerseys because, like you said, having that connection to playoff memories, to me, playoff memories just blow regular season memories out of the water. It just hand and fist. Playoff memories are like when you ask me to think of specific hockey moments, 9 out of 10 times they're going to be playoff moments. It's going to be Kachuk scoring in overtime to send the Bruins home, or it's going to be just so many cool things in recent history, but also in the last 15, 20, 25 years. I think playoff hockey is what we gravitate towards. So the special stories there, to me, make this playoff jerseys that much more special.
Mr. Meisel, as far as you're concerned, do the playoff sweaters have a little more value to you than regular season jerseys? Or, as has been discussed, it depends?
Yeah, I think so. There is kind of a hedge in pre-ordering because you don't know how your team's going to do. But you can also have good memories from a run that doesn't end in a championship. Like, the irony with me is that, like, being a Mets and Giants fan, that those teams that have made the playoffs either were one and done or made it to the championship round or game pretty much in every instance since the year 2000. So I don't know, actually, I haven't experienced, I think the Giants last year was the last one where my team made the playoffs, won a game, but didn't make it to like conference championship or the Super Bowl or whatever. And that was kind of a big deal for us, Giants fans who won 2 trophies and 2 Super Bowls in 4 years. And it's been quite a long decade plus of suffering. It was nice to win a playoff game, especially one like I like it when my team wins, like fought tooth and nail biter type game where you're just like, not only are you celebrating at the end, but you've been so tense for 3 hours of watching it that you could just relax. It's a fun release.
Geoff, to you to close.
Yeah, I mean, I agree totally with the story aspect. I mean, I looked through vaguely, and I've tried to remember what I had off the top of my head, and I think I have 4 playoff jerseys. 3 of them are Washington Capitals. Funny enough, they're all away jerseys. I have TJ Oshie from the conference finals in 2018. It's 4 games, so the average collector would look at it and be like, "That's an Oshie with not a lot of wear." But when I look at it, it's photo match to the trophy ceremony. It's photo match to multiple photos throughout Game 7 where the Caps shut out the Tampa Bay Lightning, and it's just an awesome jersey. And then I also have Braden Holtby white from 2019 playoffs, though they lost in that Game 7 double overtime. I still loved Holtby's time here in Washington. So I love that jersey, especially because I went to a game where I got to see him play in that jersey. And then I have a Nicholas Backstrom white from 22 when they faced the Florida Panthers. And that was just exciting to watch. And every time I rooted, Backstrom's out there on the ice, I'm on the edge of my seat saying, "Come on, Backstrom, get an assist, get a point, get a goal." And he did. And it was always exciting to watch. And then the other one I have kind of to close out and is those playoff moments is I own a Seattle Kraken playoff jersey from their first appearance in the playoffs, win, and their Game 7 victory over the Colorado Avalanche. I have an Oliver Bjorkstrand. He's the Game 7 hero. He scored 2 goals in the 2-1 victory over the Avalanche, the reigning Stanley Cup champions in 2023. And, it's just one of those ones I look at, and it's just a piece of Kraken history. And that's what I look at playoff gamers as. And I look at, all of the playoff shirts is, yeah, there's some collectors who don't like them, who think, oh, my team lost in 5. They only played twice in this color or 3 times in that color. But there's the story attached to it. And there's also, I'm a little bit of a gambling man. So, if I pre-order, I'll say I got one on lock for each of our teams. I got one Washington, one Nashville. Gray Richards, great salesman, sold me on the Nashville one. So, I'm going to be excited to watch both these teams. And it's a memory of, I'm the NHL program director working with these teams, authenticating these jerseys. And it's just a cool memory, not only as part of my life and my career, but watching how our teams do. And it's just that overall ties it in all in for me. And even if, Nashville and Washington don't do well, it's still a culmination of a great hockey year, great hockey season. And I'm just looking forward to seeing what teams can do and seeing where this Stanley Cup playoffs go. Because at the end of the day, playoff hockey.
There's nothing like it. As Mr. Spaid and Mr. Richards and Mr. Meisel almost eloquently put it, be part of the wave, be part of the story, let the skaters skate, let the goalies make the saves. And if you want to get in and get involved, MeiGray.com is your place to be. Nashville Predators set 3 playoffs. May they live long and prosper in a Star Trekian way. Same for the Washington Capitals. May they experience a long run ahead, and you can purchase through MeiGray.com. Another quick reminder, check out MeiGrayAuctions.com. Ongoing/recently ending, but get in while you can. Depending on when you're hearing this, you can bid wisely and bid often. Golden State Warriors, expansive selection, ending, I believe it's April 22nd. So check out MeiGrayAuctions.com. And again, Preds and Caps, and of course, all the other member teams that are part of the MeiGray program available as we head into the postseason. For Dave and Geoff and Gray, I thank you for listening to the Volume 29 Tales from the Warehouse NHL Playoffs Roundtable. Until next time, the warehouse is closed.